Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. It's Blake here, and today what we're going to be talking about is how you can start predictably generating more qualified leads for your business for free. So whether you're a high-ticket coach, affiliate marketer, or consultant looking to grow your online business but are struggling to generate consistent lead flow and quality leads itself, this video is going to be a game changer for you. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen here. We're going to dive right in, but before I do, be sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, so you never miss out on any new videos I'm releasing and any new value that I'm dropping here for you on this channel. So with that said, let's dive right in. All right, so as we dive in here, I want to give you a foundational understanding of these three core pillars towards building your magnetic marketing system so you can start attracting highly qualified leads on demand, predictably and consistently within your business. Most people are missing at least one of these core elements within their business, and it's causing everything else to be misaligned. These three things are illustrated in a triangle here on this slide that I put together for you because truly they all interchange and they're all just as important as one another. There's not one element within this that's more important than the other. So what I want to do to start is kind of walk you through each of these, and then we're going to go more in depth on these going forward. So number one, message. Message is basically what type of message is your content portraying? Who are you speaking to within your content itself? Is it speaking to your ideal client, or is it speaking to a wide range of people? And most people usually get this wrong. They're usually trying to speak to too many people at once, and that in turn is causing them to attract a wide variety of people, and usually people that aren't a good fit for their product or service itself. Looking at number two, market. Market is basically, okay, who is that subset of people that we ideally want to go after for our business? Who is that best fit ideal customer that would be perfect for our product or service that we want to turn into a lead for our business? And without being clear on that, it's very difficult to align the message accordingly. And then lastly, media. So that can start with number one, what platform are you choosing to put this content out on? But number two, what types of content are you utilizing to speak to your target market itself? Because every different subset of people is going to prefer different types of content itself, different types of lead magnets, different types of forms of content, whether it be video or written content itself. But at the end of the day, once you're able to dial all three of these in, after testing and realizing and understanding how powerful these three can be when you connect them all together, you're able to create a system that allows you to predictably and consistently generate leads on demand. So you never ever have to go to bed wondering when the next sales opportunity will come in. And you know when you put out that next piece of content, they're going to wake up 24 hours later and have a bunch of qualified leads in your pipeline itself. So now that we've walked through the three core elements that connect the triangle to creating your magnetic marketing system, I want to take a step back and walk you through each of these a little bit further. And I want to start by talking about market. So whether you're a high-ticket coach, consultant, or affiliate marketer, you have a product or service that you're selling, and you have a market that matches the best fit for that product or service itself. Most people don't take the time to get clear on this. And it's important to ask yourself, who is my target market? Who are the people that I'm going after that are the best fit possible for this offer that I'm selling itself? And if you don't take the time to do this, it's going to skew your messaging, and you're not going to be able to hyper-specific target your media itself. So looking at your market, ask yourself, number one, if you don't know who your ideal client is, start by trying to identify what the previous version of yourself was. Let's say you're an online business and you went through a year of struggle before, and now you're selling some new offer, whether it be a high-ticket affiliate offer or a coaching offer. If you're unsure on who that target market is, start by thinking backwards and asking yourself, okay, what did I go through early on in my journey? What were some pitfalls that I experienced? What type of person am I? And usually the best place to start with your target market is with the previous version of yourself, because you know that better than anybody else. Beyond that, the more specific you can get with that, the more powerful it will be. So maybe you are a dad and you're in high-ticket affiliate marketing, and you want to show other dads on how they can leave their 9-to-5 job and retire earlier by jumping into high-ticket affiliate marketing. So now you're trying to think, okay, what traits do these dads have? Where are these dads hanging out at? And how can I connect my message to them in a way that actually speaks to them? which leads me to point number 2, message. This is a huge one, and most people really fall off on this area of the triangle itself, usually because they're not super clear on who the market is, which allows them to struggle with how to tailor their message within their marketing itself. If you try to speak to everyone, you're really speaking to no one. So a lot of people try to, especially on Facebook organic in particular, they try to people please and chase engagement. And they work to put out content that they think everyone will enjoy in their friends list, so they get massive engagement because that's going to make them feel validated and feel good. But if there's one thing that I want you to know as you're watching this training now, it's the fact that engagement does not make money. The likes, the shares, those are all vanity metrics that really don't lead to any revenue generated results itself. What you should be measuring is the content that you're putting out and what type of results it's bringing you in your business in return. Because if it's not doing so, then it's time to look into your content further and ask yourself, what type of message am I putting out there? Is this speaking to my target audience? And when I'm putting out content, what do I want my audience to think, feel, or do when they read this? Because if you can't answer those questions, then neither can your target audience itself, and they're not going to be clear on what steps they need to take when they read that message itself. So especially if you're in the high ticket space, you need to be hyper specific with your message. You need to know who you're speaking to, what they're dealing with, what traits they have, what they like, what they don't like, what they struggle with, what they don't struggle with, and what's holding them back right now, so you can speak to that and speak to them within your marketing message itself. And sometimes the easiest way to start doing that is to, number one, identify who that market is and try to identify one person within that market. So if it's a previous version of you, great. If you can identify a different persona of someone in that market, also great. After you identify that one single person, start to practice writing content as though you're speaking to that one single person itself. Work to do that, and that will really help you understand how you can start tailoring your content accordingly. Because once you make that switch, it's a lot easier to make it hyper specific and targeted rather than speaking to a wide range of people, because you have one person or one end goal in mind with it itself. So I highly recommend you take some time and work to write some future pieces of content geared specifically towards that one single person within your market to help make things more specific. Outside of that, when we move to media and talk about media, yes, on the surface, this can be platforms that you're on. But in this example, I want to talk a little bit more about Facebook and Facebook organic. So if you're putting out content on Facebook organic, make sure that your media is serving a purpose. Ideally, you want to make sure that you're consistently putting out lead generation content, because at the end of the day, that's the content that's moving your audience from one step to another. That's the content that's taking them from being a potential prospect to being a lead and to being a buyer within your business itself. Your goal is to put out content that speaks to them in such a deep way that they naturally raise their hand and say, I want to access this, I'm interested, I want to learn more, to the point where you can move them into a sales conversation, whether it be getting them on a phone call or speaking to them in Messenger to present your offer and get them to jump into your program itself. And all three of these, like I've said before, truly tie together. And if you don't have these in place, it's very difficult to make the magnetic marketing system work itself. So looking into these a little bit further, I want to talk more about the media side of things and the content. So when you break down content, there's really two core main types of content that you're putting out to your audience: lead gen content and lead nurture content. Lead nurture content is used to take people from being unfamiliar with you and not knowing you to starting to warm them up and getting them to the point where they're listening and getting them to like you and begin to trust you. And then once you throw out consistent lead gen content, that's taking people from being warm to I'm listening to hot, let's talk, where they're actually raising their hand, showing interest in what you have to offer, that free thing that you're giving away within your content itself. And that's the name of the game. This is how you can create that magnetic attraction system that constantly moves people from cold to warm to hot on autopilot by putting out these types of content within your content strategy itself. So in this video in particular, we're going to focus more on lead gen content, but I'm going to go over one example here, first and foremost, showing you an example of what lead nurture content looks like that's hyper specific and speaking to my target audience, and then go over an example of a longer form piece of lead gen content that's hyper specific And again, speaking to my target audience with that aligned messaging itself. So looking at this post here, this post on my Facebook profile, notice how in the beginning here, I'm starting out with the headline of fear of failure, fear of rejection, the feeling that many people, or the feeling that many of you selling high ticket offers feel. For many, the word sales alone creates a strong emotional response. Pushy, salesy, gross. That's how it may seem on the surface, but it's deeper than that. It's really less about that surface level feeling and more about an attachment to an outcome, searching for approval by others, to be liked by those around you, wanting to be liked by someone else who you see crushing it online, to be accepted and to be heard. An illusion we've created that our self-worth as online entrepreneurs is wrapped ever so tightly on what others think of us. But what's the point? You know it, they see it, and it's weighing you down every single day. Hiding behind the image of someone that you're not, you hide on calls, your heart beats faster, you lie to others, feeling as though you have to justify your actions. But feeling safer hiding behind the scenes instead of taking that action that you know you needed to take. Every single day you show up with this lack of uncertainty in yourself, and you're killing your chances to make anything happen. There's no need to justify anything. When you speak from your true self, trust is earned. There's no pressure. You should feel free to play the game how you want, detached from the outcome, ready to do your thing without worry, because you're not here to be liked. Speak your truth. Don't worry about perfection. Remind yourself that you can't fail at being yourself. Be unapologetic and authentic. And once you align that certainty and energy, I promise you everything will change. So today I'm here to remind you that you're good enough. I'll wrap it up here. But to kind of go over on this post a little bit further, if you guys are watching this now, ask yourself, what did I want my audience to think, feel, or do when they read this post? To start, I wanted them to think and feel the fact that I have a crystal clear understanding of what they're dealing with. I know that my audience in particular and my target market deals with this feeling. They fear failure. They fear rejection. And they make actions with what they do in their online business out of the area of wanting to get approval by others because they see so many people around them doing well and it makes them feel like less of a person. So if I can show my audience and my target market through the messaging of my content that I have that deep of an understanding of them and what they're experiencing and what they're dealing with, that alone is going to build trust with them because they know that I know where they're coming from. They know that I know them sometimes better than they even know themselves or what they're aware of. And if my content can point out elements within their day-to-day life and their business that may be becoming mundane and unknown to now bringing that to surface to the point where they're realizing that, hey, this feels like me. They look at Blake and they say, wow, I trust Blake because Blake knows what he's talking about. He has an understanding of what I'm dealing with, and I want to hear more about how Blake can help me. And that's the power behind really getting clear on who your target market is and aligning your messaging towards them. So this post is more of a lead nurture post. It's not a lead gen post because I'm not giving any particular call to action. I didn't really want anyone to take any particular action at the end of it. I'm not telling anybody to comment below for a free thing or do anything like that. The main goal of this post is to show my audience that I have an understanding of what they're dealing with and help them break past it by reminding them at the end of the day what really matters most and to ignore the fear that they're feeling, to ignore the rejection that they're worried about, and to stop worrying about being liked by others and to stay in their own lane. And for me to remind them that I believe in them and that I know that they can do big things if they push this aside within their day-to-day life. This builds trust. This nurtures your audience. And this moves them towards that next step of the lead gen post coming up, which I'm about to go over next. But I'll rotate this within my content weekly, posts like this that are helping shift the beliefs of my target audience, showing them that I have a clear understanding of them, what they're dealing with, and displaying to them the fact that, hey, maybe what you're experiencing isn't really true. It may just be your mind playing games with you. And if I can show that to them and help them break past that, not only is it a win for me internally, but it's a win for my business because I'm showing them that, hey, I have that clear of an understanding of them. So that's an example of a hyper-specific, belief-shifting lead nurture piece of content. So now let's take a look at this a step further and look at a piece of lead gen content. This is content that you should be putting out weekly within your business, whether it be short form or longer form, like in the example here, whatever you feel that your audience will raise their hand more for, which requires testing. I put out a variety of shorter form and longer form pieces of content for lead generation purposes. And I have put out many different varieties of this in the past, and it really comes down to identifying, okay, what worked well, what didn't work well. Did the headline stand out to my audience? Did the headline not stand out to my audience? Based off of what I put out in the past, what worked better? And it becomes a testing game. And once you can boil it down to a simplified process that you can repeat, duplicate, and do over and over again, you now have a system in place that constantly moves people from being unfamiliar with you to being familiar with you to knowing you, liking you, and trusting you, and to becoming a lead in your business itself. So let's break down this lead generation piece of content. Notice how in the first line here, it's attractive, and I'm showing them that, hey, I might be handing you this cheat sheet. I know, number one, that my target audience works with Facebook groups because they're on Facebook Organic, and I help high-ticket affiliate marketers and high-ticket coaches who have a high-ticket offer but are struggling to grow it on Facebook. So I know that they're struggling with Facebook groups. I know that's one core problem that my audience is dealing with due to the research that I've done on my target audience itself. So I decided I wanted to put out a lead gen post around this particular struggle that my audience is dealing with. And I started out, imagine I hand you a target Facebook group cheat sheet. It has a list of all the groups that will bring you immediate qualified leads on demand. The same groups that have made me tens of thousands of dollars. Step by step, exactly what groups to build your audience from. You join them, you add friends from them, and something weird starts to happen. Your messenger conversations stay the same. You keep getting ghosted when trying to get calls booked and present offers, and your sales stay stale. You see, you think the reason you're attracting low quality leads is because you're adding friends from the wrong groups, but really it's because your content and message is attracting the wrong people to your inbox. Exactly what I'm talking about in this lesson here today. So notice how in this beginning of this post, I'm continually sucking my readers in more and more to the point where they want to keep reading my post because it's compelling and it's speaking to them in a way that invites them to want to continue to read, because I know in my mind that my audience is dealing with this target group problem, and if they could have my target group cheat sheet handed to them, they would be really interested in getting it. So they're going to keep reading to the point where now I'm making it clear to them that the target groups don't matter. Because in all reality, as I make this video and talk about this post, I could hand each of you the list of the target groups that I've used, and it truly wouldn't make a difference. Because if you don't have this magnetic attraction marketing system in place behind it, turning those group friend adding that you're doing in those groups itself and turn those into leads and sales isn't going to happen, because it relies on the messaging and the market behind what you're doing itself. And that's what I'm talking about today. So now that I've made that point heard, I go further. I get it. I used to feel the same way, wondering where the best place is to add friends from and grow my audience with high quality buyers, testing new groups, attracting the wrong people, and struggling to make any high ticket sales happen. Although your sources for adding friends may not be perfect, it's not the main reason you're attracting the wrong people and results. Don't believe me? A while back when I was in that spot in my journey, trying to fill in the blanks and searching for the magic groups, I decided to take a step back. I took a look at my content and I asked myself, what message am I trying to get across to my audience here? And from that moment, I made a switch. Rather than racking my brain on where to find the perfect sources to find friends from, I added imperfectly. Not blindly, but imperfectly. And I focused on aligning my message. The results? Within my first week, I had more qualified people reaching out to me than ever before. A few weeks later, I put out a post, and within 24 hours, it made me over $7,500 in sales off of one single Facebook post. So you're probably thinking, how can I start doing that? I have some action items for you today to turn this around. Stop hunting for new groups. Stop adding new people and diving right into Messenger with your pitch. Comment buyer leads below. I'm thinking about hosting a private training where I show you exactly how to find people that want and need your offer, and exactly how to move them into a short and simple message and sales opportunity. The first 40 people to comment below get access. If I don't get 40 people, I'll keep the secrets to my students that pay me thousands to share it with them. Look at the post below. Buyer leads, buyer leads, buyer leads, buyer leads, buyer leads. A bunch of people commented. See a comment here, am I too late to the party? So these are all people raising their hand saying, wow, this message spoke to me. I want access to this thing that you're giving away, and I want to learn more. These are all leads for my business because they're raising their hand and showing that interest. And if we break down this post further, it was geared specifically towards driving these comments. Because I told a story before that led into the point that I was trying to make at the end, which ultimately led into them saying, okay, if you want to access this, you got to comment this below. And that's getting me to get my audience to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in what you have to offer here. But if we break it down further, look how I added in here. The first 40 people to comment buyer leads get access. So I'm adding scarcity to it. It's not available to everyone, it's available to 40 people. If I don't get 40, I'll keep the secrets to my students that pay me thousands to share it with them. So what's the point of this? The point of this is the fact that I do charge thousands for my coaching program and for my students because of the value that I provide of the support I provide and the training that I provide, because I know it's going to lead to a lot higher ROI than the investment that they put in. But more than anything, the reason that I am pointing this out at the end of the post is because the freebie seekers are the people that are the low quality leads that you may be attracting. When they look at this and they see the word thousands, it's going to scare them away. It's going to help filter out those lower quality prospects and ultimately attract more of the people that may be willing to make that investment just by making that heard within the post itself. I like to call this an anchor within your messaging. So think about what anchors can you put out, whether it's mentioning how much you've invested in yourself and your business in the past and sharing that within your messaging itself, because that's going to help filter out the people that look at that and say, wow, you put $15,000 in yourself. I would never be able to do that, or I would never be willing to do that. And that's how you can start attracting higher quality people. By number one, putting out content that solves a real problem that your audience is dealing with. Two, positioning that content in a way that speaks to them on such a deep level that you show that you have a crystal clear understanding of them. And three, adding in anchors within your content to help filter out and flesh out the people that may not be willing to make that investment itself. And this is an example of a post that I put out that the goal of it is obviously to drive these comments and to get leads, but I'm working to attract a particular subset of people. I don't want everyone to comment. I want the people that may be willing to invest thousands that are struggling with this particular problem to comment, because I know that that's going to lead to a higher quality lead flow within my business itself. So now that you've seen the direct examples of those pieces of content that I use to hyper specifically speak to my target audience, you now have an understanding of how those three pillars interchange and connect together. Within those two pieces of content that I broke down, the first one being an example of the lead nurture content, the second one being an example of the lead gen content, that's showing you how I'm taking people from prospect, being unfamiliar with me and not knowing me and not trusting me, to being warm, familiar with me and starting to trust me, to now getting them to raise their hand and say, hey, I have interest in what you have to offer. And it came down to me getting hyper specific and clear on, number one, my message, speaking to my audience in a way that shows them that I have a crystal clear understanding of what they're experiencing, what struggles they're dealing with, what roadblocks they're encountering, what would be helpful to them, and ultimately what would make the biggest difference for them and their business right now. Above that, I have an understanding of who that market is, because I know what my offer and the problem that it provides and what that promise of my offer is, and the problems that the ideal market that I'm trying to speak to deal with as well. And once I have an understanding of those two and can connect those two together, now it's just a matter of aligning the media behind it and making sure that you're putting out media with attractive headlines, positioning it in a way that speaks to your target audience and giving them a call to action to actually take them on that next step itself. Because a lot of times, some of you may even have the message market media in place, but you're forgetting to put call to actions in place, which ultimately is stopping you from getting your ideal prospects to actually raise their hand itself. So with that said, that's a wrap for this training. For those of you that aren't subscribed to the channel yet, again, be sure to do so. Click the button below and click subscribe so you never miss out on any future trainings that I release here for you on this channel. And thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one.